You said you're about 15 at that time.
Yeah, maybe 13, maybe actually 13.
Wow.
So, not much farther after I had seen AC/DC in concert. So that was the highlight before seeing H. Watkins. Yeah. So, but I think that, but I was really drawn to the musicians and the personalities in that band, and I just you can't explain it, but you have a feeling, when you see, and a lot of great musicians have probably talked about this soon, or musicians period, that they have a feeling earlier in their career that that there's something about a musical soulmate, finding a musical soulmate, and I knew I was going to play with Steve at some point, and Mitch. So it
wasn't but a couple of years later you started showing up at the Monday Night Jazz Jam with your hideous electric blue viola, and he would sit in, and honest to God, he was terrible, but he was persistent, and I liked his persistence, and we always let him play, because even when he played, he was just terrible because he was young and it was a hard instrument, and we were all terrible when we were young. I mean, I remember when I met Mitch, the first band I was in, Mitch was 19 and I was 14, and he was terrible and I was worse, but we played anyway. But you could hear the ideas. I could hear that there was a lot going on upstairs, and so I knew if we all kind of just sensed that if we just let him evolve and helped him evolve, which is what the older players in town did for me. They heard me and I was terrible and obnoxious and persistent, and they said, yeah, but there's something going on, and if we just keep coaching him, and it's kind of the tradition in the jazz idiom, and in most idioms, but especially in Austin, and there was a regular Monday rock and blues jam and a regular Monday jazz jam, and the older players would come play, and then these young cats would come sit in, and some sucked, and some were great, and some had potential, and also new guys in town. That's the other thing, is new guys in town would come there and meet and network, and that's how we actually found a lot of our current players, like Rob Casamel, and
absolutely.
Who else? Well, Matt Mueling. Just these new guys come to town. They're young and they're great players. And
that's a great thing about music and the art that it is that it's a collaborative art, and there's a social aspect to it. That it's always, or a collaborative aspect that's always attracted me, as compared to, with, say, art, or other arts like painting, where you're just in a room alone, or you're on a field painting alone. And I've really been drawn to what happens with chemistry between human beings in a live situation. And music forces you to be present. This is something I've spent a lot thinking about recently, is when you play in an ensemble, if you find each other, like we found each other, or musical, in some sense you're brought together by an unseen force to grow as people, and you're forced, or you're maybe not forced is the right word, you're called, you're invited to be present in a way that you can't.
Have you been here this whole time?
We're filming, okay? That's all right. This is Kenda.
Hello.
Do you want? Yes. Question.
I was just walking to get my blanket.
So you were here when I was taking a shower and walking around the house in a towel?
I didn't see you because I was in my
I know
room.
you didn't.
So what I was going to say is that collaboration in a band forces you to be present, in a span of time. You can't put something off. When you play in a band, you're confronted with being present in that moment.
Air conditioning.
Dealing with.
Shut the door, doofus.
Cold glass. Hey, sorry. You
Actually,
get enough of that?
Another really interesting aspect of that being present is that
it's a zen.
Is that like when I go hear players, or when I want to meet some new players, it's like you can in almost any other business you can work with people for a really long time before you really get to know them and find out what some of their flaws or geniuses or some of their.
As a human being.
Yeah, as a human being.
But
with music, and that's still true with us as people, as our personalities, but as far as hearing a player goes, almost any decent musician can tell you, they can go hear somebody, and within 30 seconds to a minute, I can tell how good a player he is and what style he has and how he plays with other people, and I can pretty much tell, like in an instant audition, whether he would work in a musical situation or not, or which musical situation he would work in.
I agree.
And that's true in music more than any other art form, I think. Because it is so collaborative. I can go watch 4 people playing together, and I can tell everything I need to know about each player in a couple of minutes. And go, okay, I'll never hire him. I'll definitely hire him. And I'm gonna have to check out and see how he does in other styles.
It's actually a miracle that music ever gets created anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On some level, because there are so many things at play at that given point in time, and anyway, we can get off on that subject.
So tell me about how Strings Attached started, how that came to be.
Oh, you're gonna ask that question?
Well, first you have to back up because in his early 20s, then he created the Will Taylor Group and started writing his own songs.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, basically, right. I was drawn to writing instrumental music that involved jazz and classical composition and lots of different elements, world music, if you want to put labels on it. And at some point, I got asked to write music for a friend who's a conductor for a full orchestra project of my music with our group, the Will Taylor Group, and then what happened was Sarah Hickman heard that I'd done that, had written some full orchestra arrangements, and said, "Hey, we need somebody to write. I've just got asked to play a concert with the Fort Worth